Okay, moving on to subtracting rational numbers. So let's get some up here and take a look at them. So the first one we're going to look at, and I'll remember to label it this time first, so A, and we're going to use a -4 and 2/5, and we're going to subtract that from a -3/5. Alright, so that's one we're looking at, and we've got a couple different things we need to do to start out with. So looking at the problem, I've got a mixed number over here that I need to make into an improper fraction, and I've got a minus a negative, and you remember that when subtracting, we're going to change this subtraction problem into a addition problem so that we'll follow the same rules we did with addition. So let's go ahead and move on and move through the process. So the first thing I'm going to take care of is that mixed number, the -4 and 2/5. So again, the denominator times the whole number, and then add the numerator. So 5 times 4 is 20. Add 2 more gives us 22. Okay, keep the same denominator, so that was 5. Now this is where we're going to move into, let's put it orange this time. Again, we have minus a negative. Okay, so minus right here and your -3/5 up here. When you have those together, that's going to change it, and that simply becomes, oh, get back to the pen here, an addition problem. Okay, and then we have the 3/5. So the 3/5 is no longer negative, and it's no longer a subtraction problem. So when you see those together, that just becomes addition. Okay, so when we look at that, oh, this down here was negative, by the way. We had -4 and 2/5. I forgot to put that up there. So as we look at it, we have 5 as our denominator for both of them. So we can go ahead and add or subtract the top. Again, we changed it into an addition, but we need to look at the numbers. So here we have 3/5, so we have a 3 on top, and that's positive. And over here we have a -22 on top. So again, just like we did in the last example when we were adding them, because they are different, we ended up having to subtract them. So I have my denominator is going to stay 5, and we have a -22 and a positive 3, so it's going to give us 19 if we subtract them. Now if that 22 were a positive, then you would add them, so because they both be positive, and it'd be 25 over 5. But they're not. This one's negative and that one's positive, so they're different, so you subtract them. And we look at 3 and then 22, and 22 is bigger, and that's negative, so we keep the negative on there. So we have a -19 over 5. Again, an improper fraction, so we need to change that into a mixed number. And 5 will go into 19 without going over, what's that, 3 times. I know this is negative, so I'm going to put that in there right away. So 3 times, so 5 times 3 is 15. That means we have 4 left over to get to 19, and we keep the same denominator. So the answer is -3 and 4/5. Okay, again, one of the more important parts here, remembering that if you are subtracting a negative, they kind of cancel out and that becomes a positive, so, or an addition problem. So let's look at this different kind. So this time let's do something really simple. So how about 1/3 minus 1/6? Okay, now when you look at this one, how that's different from the first one is that this is just one fraction, a positive fraction, minus another positive fraction. So there's no minus a negative in here. So this one's treated a little bit differently. So I'm going to write it again below, and we have 1/3. But when you make this an addition problem, you slide that negative over to the 1/6. Okay, see how I just kind of moved that over to 1/6 and put an addition? So that's the other type of subtraction problem, how to make that an addition problem. So we're looking at this, now we look at the denominators next, and the denominators are not the same as 3 and 6, so we have to rewrite them. And I know that the one that they will both fit into evenly just happens to be 6, so we want to use the lowest one when we can. And we didn't change the 1/6, so that -1 still stays there. And let me change colors on you, but we did change the 3, we had to multiply that by 2 to get the 6 as a denominator, and so we do that to the top also. So times 2. 1 times 2 is just 2. Okay, let me go back to white. Alright, so now we have the same denominator, and we know that's going to be 6. Alright, and we have a 1 and a 2, and that one's negative, so even though, again, it says to add, we're going to subtract because one's negative and one's positive. So 2 minus 1 is just 1, and we keep the sign of the larger number, and so 1 here, 2 here, and the 2 is bigger and it's positive, so we leave that 1/6 as a positive. So here are the two examples, and this seems to be when most people are having the problems remembering. So just remember those two different ways of changing A and then B into a addition problem, and then it's the same thing we're doing with adding rational numbers. Okay, so we have a couple that will show you these, and we'll see you back in just a moment.